Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. In 2005, I prayed hard. You know how you over pray, you really don't put enough parameters on it, and then God answers you and you're not ready for the answer? That's what happened to me in 2005. I was praying, what do you want me to do with my life? I have gifts, but I don't know how I should be using them for you. And that was my specific question. What do you want me to do? I will do whatever you want me to do. Whatever it is, I'll do it. And then God answered, and I was like, ooh, I really didn't. I should have put caveats on that, but I didn't know at the time that God will challenge that whatever, and you might not like whatever is. Right. So I went to a Christian bookstore, and I saw a necklace, and it was a little shield, and on the back of the shield was Joshua 1:9 and 10. And I prayed that up and down. I wore it all the time. Whenever I was afraid, I would rub the back of it because that's where it was actually etched. Be strong and courageous. For the Lord God is with you wherever you go. Be strong and courageous. And I said that to myself all the time as I went through seminary, as I traveled the world. Be strong and courageous. And when I was asking, what do you want me to say? What do they need to hear? And Joshua 1:9 came up, but not from the vantage point through which I usually read it, because I usually focus on that, be strong and courageous. This time, I was like, wherever? Where is wherever? And why is that relevant? Because when God made that promise was made to Joshua. And if you're familiar with the passage, Joshua was standing on the cusp of walking into the promised land. So we already knew where the wherever would be, right? So, why was God reassuring him on the wherever part when he's walking into the promised land? So I got stuck on wherever. Joshua had just lost his leader. He had been following Moses for years. He was his right hand. And Moses was not walking into the promised land. Joshua was now the leader and being told to take the people across the Jordan into the land that was promised. And wherever he placed his foot, that would be their land. Wow. So he is going through joy of going into the promised land, but grief of not having his friend and his leader, confusion of now being in this new position with these people behind you who are following you. And God says, I'll be with you wherever. Now, I love that story. I love it. I mean, I hate the sadness of it. I hate the quickness of the transition, but sometimes God takes you out of things so fast that you don't have a choice but to move. And sometimes if it's slow, we hold on and linger. So if he had lingered, maybe Joshua wouldn't have gone and we would have to push him along. So Moses gone, no chance, this is you, this is now your mantle, and now you have to take the people. But why do you need assurance in the promised land? And it made me look at my own faith when I was looking at that passage, and I was like, wait a minute. If you're in the promised land, you probably aren't leaning as heavily. So what is the promised land promise really? To get to the promised land, they went through all types of adversity, right? What does your promised land look like for you? That became my reflective question. I have an idea of what the promised land looks like to me. And I'm sure we all have an idea of what it looks like, what our promise is from God and the ability to attain it, and venturing into it and flowing through the land of milk and honey and all being well. But there is something about that journey to get there. That journey to get there is a beast. It's a fight. It's a strive. When they were looking for that land, they didn't go, oh my God, promised land, walk across the street, it's all good. That's not how they got there. They had to fight and war and fight amongst themselves. And do we really believe because it's not coming that fast? Oh my God, I can't stand this person. I'm hungry. It's hot out here. Does this sound familiar? Vision, make it plain. You write it down. It's like, ooh, I can read that. Why does it take you so long to get there? Because you don't write in your adversity. You don't write in how hard it's going to be, all the disagreeable people, the lack of finances. You don't write that stuff in because you really don't anticipate it. It just comes upon you. Right? But your job in the midst of that is to continue to press. Because just because the promised land didn't come quickly, or because the wherever isn't all milk and honey, there's some vinegar over there, does not mean that the promise is not still there. It does not mean that you stop walking. It does not mean that you don't press on. See, sometimes wherever is where you're tired. Sometimes wherever is where you have put in all your best effort and don't see any fruit right now. Sometimes wherever the land is dry and it doesn't seem fertile, sometimes that is just wherever is. Sometimes wherever is in the midst of grief or having your very vibrant soul stuck in a body that doesn't feel as young as it used to. Sometimes wherever is in a place where there's just so much silence and you just wish somebody would look at you and acknowledge you. You have to remember that you have friends out there. Sometimes that is where your wherever is. And it's not all good. And it's not very pleasant. And nobody wants to be there, not even you. But in the midst of that moment, because you cannot escape it, is to remember who your company is. Because even if your wherever is not the best place and it's not the place you want to be and you hate it so you don't want to drag anybody else in it, God is there.